Maybe we could have a conversation about Albert Einstein. It's an interesting statement, quote, or at least something attributed to Albert Einstein. He said if I may loosely quote it, perhaps not word for word, the thing that caused the problem cannot solve the problem, or the thought, the action that caused the problem cannot solve the problem. If you use the same thought process that caused the problem to solve the problem, you simply make the problem larger. Perhaps for a moment it might look like you have solved it or just done something about it. However, using the thing that caused the problem can only greaten the problem. Now, the reason I care to speak about this for a moment with all you folks, all you guys, is if something is true in one domain or in one contextual action, then it's true in all. And Einstein's statement is especially true in our consciousness, this consciousness that we now live in, which is a consciousness that we inherited from our parents, who inherited it from their parents, who inherited on back. If we go back far enough, we'll discover there was only really, I would guess, two things that directed our actions. And one was stay alive, perhaps, and the other one was religions, beliefs, gods, the god of fire, the god of light, the god of water, all those things. And from those two things, we have always fought. We've always gone to war. We've always had contests with each other to see who could outdo the other person or who could dominate or rule the other person. So this consciousness that we inherited, we accepted, is the core or the thing that's causing our problem. You see? You could say in a certain way, it's not you, it's not the people going to war, it's not those folks that are raping women, it's not the fights and the arguments that are actually responsible, but it's the consciousness. You speak, the consciousness that we accepted has violence at its core because it's a consciousness of belief, of knowledge and thought, as I spoke about yesterday. So the thing, if you will, that I have been for the last 40 years is a total, complete, 100% revolution against this consciousness, all of it, the entirety of it, because it's a consciousness of a dream world. It's all a lie. It's all thought. Thought is always of the past. It's always knowledge. It's always belief. So therein lies my continued unpopularity. Because as I've said before, people consider maybe something I'm saying is worthwhile, and then they listen for a little while and they say, oh no, oh no, 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 I'm not going that far. So I reach the limit of people who have limits. And people who have limits are stuck in thought. because thought is always limited, because it's always dead. It's always what has already happened. It's yesterday, it's the day before, it's long ago. Even the language that I'm using, that we use, is of thought. It's of our history. It's of our past. You have to have a history. You have to have a past. You have to study what these words mean. Now, the problem with it is, because we're born into them, we are trapped in them. They already have their meaning. They already are there. They're already ready to direct us. And we accept the direction, you see. So probably from the age of 4, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, we're not doing the thinking. I'm sounding a little weird here, huh? This is a culmination of maybe, I don't know how many of these tapes I've done here, 40 something, 50. I'll either stop doing them or start over from the beginning again, because this is the King Daddy, the culmination, if you will. We have been living for thousands of years with thinking us. That's why no matter what we do, no matter what action we take, whether some of us take the action of let's don't have war, some take the action of let's have war, and both those actions cause a war. You see, because we have accepted the consciousness of insanity, of evil, if you will. Evil is when a lie is told. And we have been living in lie. I say lie as singular because then lie as singular causes plural. Lies, 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 lies. Look at our president and you'll see. He's so lied, he's so filled with lies, he'll never come out of it. The probability is. So Einstein said, in essence, the thought that caused the problem cannot solve the problem. A new thought is needed. Now, if you take that context and stretch it, make it larger, then the same is true with consciousness. The consciousness that has caused the problems, all of them on this planet, cannot possibly solve the problems that it caused. A new consciousness must be born. As a matter of fact, the first of 5 books that I have out is named A New Consciousness Born. You are the source. The new consciousness born means that this consciousness that I'm speaking of has been born. I'm speaking through it now. I'm displaying it, have been displaying it for a long time. The problem is there's no language for it. You see, there's no language in a consciousness of violence, in a consciousness of wars and killings and racism and misogyny and all of the things that we are. You can come in. There is no language for peace. There's no language for being free. There's only a language for lying, stealing, and cheating. And here's the greatest thing. We have people who are on the verge, perhaps, of a transformation. They're on the verge of breaking through to a new way of being. And we have a whole group of people waiting for them. They're called psychiatrists and psychologists. And what they do is they beat you right back into submission. They say, "Oh no, you're not gonna jump out of this box. We're gonna keep you trapped in lying, stealing, and cheating, the consciousness of this planet." So Einstein was correct when he said the thought that caused the problem cannot solve the problem. I am simply expanding it and making it the same. The consciousness that caused the problem cannot solve the problem. This consciousness that we have been for thousands of years has only violence at its core. That means even the nice things, the music, the pictures, all these things supposedly that are nice, are only nice compared to our violence. Now, if there was ever a way of describing what living life without violence at its core is like, it's not possible. Because what it is free. What it is transformed. What it is a new consciousness. And you don't have any memory of that. You don't have any... Even when I say those words, you have your own opinion. Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah, he means this. He means that. No, what I mean is a new consciousness. The new consciousness that I'm speaking of comes from peace. And the thing that is used, or that I use, to bring forth this consciousness of peace is peace. You see? So everything, essentially, that I say is going to be the opposite of what this world says. In other words, I'm always going to be wrong to them and they're always going to be wrong to me. Except that it's not really right or wrong. It simply means which is true and which is a lie. If we could each discover that before we reached the age of 4, we gave our life up, we created our entire life, and we have been living that life since then. We have been what they call, I don't remember what it is, when some predestination. We've been living a predestined life, not realizing that we are is there such a word as predestinator? We're the ones predestining, doing the predestination. We're the ones saying our life is going to remain violent. We're going to keep right on killing each other, keep right on raping our women. We're going to keep all that stuff going. But we're going to pretend like we're not. So the distinction, if you will, is I'm drawing this Einstein statement. It's not a theory. It's actually a universal truth. Universal truth is that which brought forth the problem cannot solve the problem. Something new is needed. Now that goes from the small things, like a new thought is needed to solve the problem that the old thought has. But what I'm considering, what I'm suggesting here, is a new consciousness, not just a new thought. That's simple. Well, it's not simple for religious people because they only have one thought. Pray and hope and charity and that sort of thing. If you care to discover this possibility that I am presenting, the possibility of a new consciousness born, you are the source. I have this placard on my wall here that Brian and Donna got for me. It's a great big thing of our first book. A series of transcribed conversations. Actually, it happened on Pal Talk, a VoIP program. And a guy came in and started recording the talks that I was having 10 years, 12 years ago. So, you are the source implies or means that you are responsible, 100% responsible for a new consciousness to be born. And if you'll go very slowly to read that, a new, a meaning singular, new meaning never having been before. Not some religious nonsense, not some God, not some Jesus, none of that stuff. What it means is never having been before. New. And then consciousness. Born. So the name of that first book, A New Consciousness Born. And essentially that's what this conversation's about, although I named it Einstein because the old consciousness is a violence-filled consciousness. That means that everything you do in that consciousness is born from violence. And what you are seeing, if you can repair, is violence. So you're using a consciousness that only has violence. Two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time in order to solve the problem of violence. Now, if you haven't noticed what happens when you do that, it gets greater. It gets worse. Right now, we are at a place where the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, is accused of 68 rapes or molestations or sexual assaults of females. And religious people say, oh, no, he didn't do that, even though he said, I grabbed women whatever that place is. So we have arrived, if you will, at what the religious people have talked about. End times. Except perhaps this end times that we're talking now is end times for what was the United States of America. And now we're the ununited States of America. We are a religious country just like Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and whatever those religious countries over there are. So now we're going to really tell those women what they can do and cannot do with their bodies. We're going to tell all those people that they're going to follow God's rule. Of course, the ones in charge are going to be the ones who tell you what God's rule. Anyway, that's enough of that. So, Einstein said, or in this case, Edward's saying, the consciousness that created this planet, this world where we are now, cannot solve where we are now. Any solution that it comes up with will only worsen or make greater the problem that we have now. Which means that everything you do is wrong. All of it. It doesn't make any difference if it's right. Because if it's right, it's in the consciousness of violence, which cancels your right. Anyway, there's no such thing as right and wrong. That's just something made up. All right, so there's 18 minutes and 19 minutes right now. Way too long. I apologize for taking up so much of your precious time with this nonsense about bringing forth peace on earth so that there's no longer ever a war, no longer women being raped, no longer fighting with each other. I know that's not worth very much time, so I better shut up now while I'm not ahead. A Perfect Life TV. By the way, selftransformation.org. There are 5 books. There's, I think, 100 blogs. There's 200 YouTubes there. And of course on my Facebook, where this is, there's I think 50 of these videos. If you have any interest in internal peace for yourself, which then could manifest peace on earth, then maybe visit one of those places. A perfect life to each of you.